All right, good peoples. Good morning. Late evening Monday, early morning Tuesday. My little bit afternoon in Asia. That's when I have some advantages and some disadvantages, like trying to stay up when the market is there. I think it's Labor Day when they go back on daylight savings time, so it makes it an hour later here. So that gets harder in the evenings. All right, let's jump into this. This is another shocker. And let me tell you how I stumbled upon doing this. I was getting ready to do a retire on Ulti and just really deep dive on Ulti, and I did. And then I thought, before I make that, let me compare it to YMAX, because that's another fund that a lot of people believe is a good fund of funds. I don't, but so be it, right? That's what makes the world go round. We all have our opinions. Only I am prepared to back it up with lots and lots of detail. Not that that makes it right, people, but it's at least the correct data. I report, you decide. All right. So, is there a new fund of funds sheriff in town? I kind of think so. Now, when it rolls out, your guess is as good as mine. I suspect it won't be all that long. So that's how I stumbled upon this. I was doing Ulti, doing YMAX. Then I thought, well, what are people looking forward to? They're looking forward to a Rex at some point as they roll out funds, ultimately Granite Yield Boost, and certainly Roundhill, who came out with five, have 160 days trading those five, now have 61 days or so calendar days on their second five, and just launched last week on Thursday their third five. So they really have enough now to do a fund of funds. So what I did, having said all that, is I went out and did a comparative if they launched the fund tomorrow and it had the 10. It's not going to have the other, it may have the other ones, but they have no track record. And I'm not one to tell you that if they don't have a track record, I don't consider it. You know, they need at least 3 or 4, they need a month under their belt. So when I have one with I have five funds with 160 days, it's easy to do a comparison. And YieldMax has the exact same five funds for the exact time period. So let's do a head to head on these five, see how they stack up. Then take the newer five and do a head to head with the exact fund in YieldMax versus Roundhill for that time period. Add those two together, take half, and then compare a fund of funds if that was YieldMax's fund of funds, right? Let's say they made a fund, and then let's compare YMAX over that exact same time period. So that's what I set out to do, and that's what I did. But if you see, I have an Ulti and YMAX tab and a whole bunch of stuff. I'll circle back around and do my retire on Ulti, what I like about Ulti, what I don't like about it, what the numbers are telling us now. All right, so that's separate. Let's jump in here. So here are five funds from February 19th. If you watch my Roundhill, you watch my YieldMax, whenever I do one or the other reporting, I tend to do a competitive with more funds. But for the sake of this is the only two companies that have enough funds right now to go out and do a fund of funds. So YieldMax, my problem with YieldMax, with YMAX, is yeah, they may not pick everyone, but in theory, they're supposed to own them all. But they own a lot, good, bad, and indifferent. So when we do a straight up heads to head here, head to head comparison, I think it's more than fair. And it shocked me, frankly. All right, so who's the big dog here in the Roundhill over the last 5 weeks? Last 5 weeks over these five funds since February 19th. Okay. Well, it's saying that Coney is, right? Or Coin is. And COIW and CONI or CONY would be competitors. Well, they don't look very competitive to me. Look at this total return, 84.43. Okay, same time period, Coney has produced a total return of 13.23. What's gone wrong? Is Coney not paying? Nope. Distribution annualized 61.65% over this time period. PLTW hanging, or PL, COIW. Sorry, guys, just too many letters, too many numbers. The numbers I handle better than the letters. 52.44. So, hey, you got a 9-point advantage in distribution. Annualized, right? Raw distribution, you're going to have an advantage 27 to 22. After 160 days, that's not quite half. If it was half, then that 5 would be 10, and now it's more like 12. Or no, it's actually only like 10. Okay. And these use a pretty statistic heavy formula. If you notice here, this is the legitimate formula that comes from statisticians. This is the approved. You can Google it. You can do anything you want, AI it. This is the right way to do it, which I've done since the beginning because I researched it. I didn't want people to say, well, that's not how I would consider it. Well, the statistician community has a formal approval, housekeeping approval. Okay. So 84% to 13%. That's one fund. How about the PLTW? 78.96. How about Pulte? Well, Pulte's kind of the winner down here, and it's a little small, 18. So when you start like that, that's not good. Okay, how about NVIDIA? That's been a barn burner. Well, NVIDIA, 48.96, call it 49 to 12%. Well, what's happening down here? NAV erosion, guys. I know everybody hates to hear that, but when you ignore it at your own cost, peoples. All right. So while this looks like a blowout, it's not always a blowout. The next sample of the next group has a shorter time frame, and YieldMax does better. Not enough. Certainly not enough. Okay. And look at the two funds here that were bad. Look at Tess W versus Tess Lee. They only had an 8.7 and it had a 22. So it's not, nothing is perfect all the time. Apple, 27%. Apple, 12%, right? More than 2 to 1. But all those get included, guys. There's no, picking and choosing to favor somebody. So let's take a look at how this sums up. If you only had a 5 ETF fund of funds, I'll tell you how it sums up. More than 2 to 1 in favor of Roundhill. So Roundhill fund of funds for 5, YieldMax same 5, same date, right? All the headline there. I'll do it this way so you can see. You know what I should do? Just make a header here. Hang on, guys. Let me freeze these. Oh, never mind. I took my menu down. I'll have to bring that back. I have it over in the other one. All right. So when you're looking at these, you got your date, you got your inception price. So what I did was just add them all together and divide them by 5 for everybody, right? So the math all still works. 923 distributions, 717 distributions. But again, what's that relate to? Not much better, but better for YieldMax because they're YieldMax. They maximize yield. Okay? But they also maximize loss. So the gain or loss, they had a 22.32% across the average of their 5 funds. Roundhill only lost 845. but Round Hill outpaid 54% to 43, so it's up 11, almost 12%. But this is where it gets hurt. 43 to 18, right? So you got a significant winner, more than 2 to 1, guys, like 212%, I think. I didn't do that number, but I did it when I have them both. All right. So that's half of it. But Bruce, you're saying 5 funds is not enough to be a fund of funds. And you would be right on that. Okay. So I left the results in here for this one just so you can see them. And this is now the 618 Round Hill 5 of 5. So you're not looking, well, yep, you are. All right. I jumped the gun on you guys. I was about to say, well, you can't see all the detail. Yes, you can. Not only that, but you can see YMAX. I brought YMAX in here. What a lot of work. Anytime you've got to get the distributions nailed down to certain time frames, it's a lot of work. Look at this. This is how many weeklies and a portion of a weekly when it started. I want it to be fair, completely fair. So what you have here is the big winner is whoo, the owl, right? Not hooey, hooey. I start to make myself laugh with that. So some of these you just can't say. These W's, right? Try and say the letters into a word. It just doesn't work. The Y's work. Pulte, hooey, feppy, nefly, right? But when you get into the W's, there's just not much pronunciation. Amza, broke W. All right. So anyway, enough of the silliness, guys. Current price, weekly change, you don't care too much in this kind of gain or loss you care about because that's going to tell you, okay, what's going to happen over here. This gets an annualized. Remember, we're only talking 41 calendar days. But it is what it is. Everybody's operating in the exact same time frame. Well, you got some wins. Nobody's going to say that hooey isn't competing with hoo-wah, the owl. But when you look at this, the distro. So where is it winning? It's blowing up, just like COIW. Same thing here. So YieldMax pays, what's the actual pay? Let's look at them. So 110%, okay, annualized distribution in 40, well, that's projected annually based on 41 days. It won't be that high, I don't suspect, either way, right? But you don't see it here. You see 24%. That well could happen and probably will. But 110 is they're just paying it like crazy. But what about gain? Look at 52, call it 70. That's 18. That's more than a third, just about a third. A third would, 32.45. Well, when you multiply that, that's why it becomes 1120 with my formula. The housekeeping approved, okay? FASB, Financial Accounting Standards Board. So any way you want to look at it, that's how you calculate an annualized number. Seems a little different, but that's how it's done. Okay. And it's not that we're using that because when you have a long time period, it just dissipates. But everybody has that advantage. That's why this is 171. But that's in total. So when you're only up 60%, which is darn good, it just doesn't keep up, right? And when your losers are bigger, 30 here to 18, FAPI, look at this, 85 to 8, you're losing on your Berkshire Hathaway minus 39, and you've got 13 there. Amazon, you're 94. AMZ, you're 82. Nice. Well, where's the win happen? Well, clearly, YieldMax is YieldMax. They outpaid them 39 to 27. But with the leverage, they out-levered them 66 to 43. So you tell me where you want your money, right? If you're a fanboy or you just can't see through loving YieldMax, then buy YieldMax, right? For me, I take my money where it's treated the best. YieldMax doesn't love me. They don't care about me. They don't care about any individual. They only care about making money. They're a business, okay? So at the end of the day, I take my money where it's treated the best. So that's what I got for you guys. Now, what about YieldMax? So I'm going to sum these up for you, but now I'm introducing YieldMax on two platforms. I got a 618 and I got a 219. Remember, we did 219s over here. So they look great on the 618 platform. Why? Because the market's generally been up the entire time. So they captured 82.35% total return in the 41 days, projected out annualized. What's that consist of? A 5180 distribution annualized. Guys, target ahead, love to get 40%. Well, how about 51.8? Is that going to happen? Hell no. Not a chance at all. But for 41 days, it's held that up because the market's gone up. Now, if you're telling me 320 more days the market's going to do this, then hey, I don't think it is. Maybe you're right. And then you'll get a heck of a distribution. Everything will do really well. So, but look at this period. Now, this includes 618 to, 728. But it also includes some bear market activity after 219. The market went down into April. And that's what you got to do. You got to have something that shows you both sides. So one of these, clearly, the 160 days is long enough to really tell us something. But you also want to know who performs better in the bull, right? So they did 82.35. Is that enough to win? Let's see. So here's now my full analysis. So I come in here and I say, hey, Roundhill Fund of Fund, 5 funds from 618. YieldMax, same 5 from the same time frame. You got 100% averages out total return to 64. So that's 167% better, right? So 100% is the same. So it's about 67. And then when you go down here and you say, okay, what about the other group of 5, right? The 219 group. So we win this one and we double this one, right? So this is like this is a 200%er, right? You're up 11, you're up almost 25. This one, 40 over 60 is like 2/3, but you're not quite there. You're probably 61%. Here, you're like 100% better. So how does it then roll in? So I take these two groups, the 100% and the 24%, and then I divide everything in half, including the distributions. Both sides are treated exactly equal. Now, YieldMax is winning again in distributions, 1473 to 1195. So that gives them an annualized 5351 to 4342. So you got YieldMax for the win in their fund of funds of 10 that are the same as Roundhill's 10 over the same time frame. Is that enough to win? Got a 10-point margin? No. You lose by 16 points in total return. Roundhill has a total return over that, and I averaged it 2 days. It said 160 and 41 is 201 divided by 2, 100.5. The win happens because Roundhill doesn't have the NAV loss, because when it does go up, they have the leverage to go up. But remember, they're operating in a 219 when it also went down, and a 618 when it went up. So fair is fair. Okay. So I calculated what did YieldMax do? Well, YMAX, it's almost like YieldMax, YMAX did a little better than the 10 fund of funds, which were exactly the same securities. They did 13% better. So instead of 21.35, they did 24.46. But where did they get hurt? Same thing. Doesn't matter. 27.12. So you can outpay Roundhill, but you can't outperform Roundhill. And that's the caveat. That tells me where I want my money. That or Neos or some of the Granite shares, some of the other funds. Competition is good, guys. I know a lot of you understand it, but when I get that, that rant I went on in my last one about, well, it's better than FCHD and better, that those are cop outs. You're not comparing it against that. Compare it against the same competition, the same funds, right? And then who's the smartest? Who put the best strategy together? So that's what I bring you, peoples. I don't bring you fanboyism. I'm not going to go and get Jay's sidekick or get Jay on here because I already know what he's going to say. He's a smart man. There's nothing wrong with Jay. Very smart man. Works hard, right? But he also has a company policy. What's the best fund you can buy? YieldMax. Why? Because he's selling YieldMax. He's promoting YieldMax because it's his benefit to do so, right? We've seen it in our politicians forever. So it's no different. I'm not knocking anybody. If anything, I'm knocking the YouTubers that just do the same thing, retire on Misty, retire on whatever is hot. They just keep doing that same thing. I don't even know if they understand or believe. They're just trying to get views and trying to get paid, right? But if you're really good in the markets, you can get paid in the markets. You don't have to have a huge YouTube channel. If also you have that, that's great. I'm trying to grow mine. It's more of a challenge. At my age, it's a challenge. I didn't grow up with social media. I could certainly go out there and do more on social media and double, triple, quadruple my channel. But, I want it to grow, but I'm not willing to do all that. It takes away from my trading and study time on the markets. And so that's my advantage, I think, over most. Not all. There's some smart people. There's some smart people who don't spend the time to do YouTube because they're putting it all into the market. All right, guys, that's what I got for you. So there's a new fund of funds champ out here. So get ready when they launch. Smart money will be there. All right, guys, this is Bruce with Targeted Wealth Creation. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Have a great one. Bye for now.